Welcome back on board the Starship. I'm talking with Ben Emlyn Jones. Now, one of your areas of research, Ben, is UFOs. And obviously, I'm very interested in that subject too. Now, recently, we've had some cases in the mainstream media which appear to be treating the subject very seriously. For example, there was an article in the Daily Mail about the press conference which took place in Washington, D.C. on the 27th of September. And in that press conference, Robert Hastings spoke about many cases of UFOs interfering with nuclear missiles. And this Daily Mail piece didn't criticize it at all, and there have been other articles in The Sun. Now, do you think they are preparing us for full disclosure of UFOs, or is there another agenda here? What's your opinion?
There's another agenda. On the one hand, I mean, I take heart from the fact that people are treating it more seriously. There is a limit to how much can be suppressed in the media, which is good news. They can't point a gun at the head of every journalist. Mm-hmm. They have to use much more subtle and sort of snide and crafty means of manipulating. And when those means stop working, there's not a lot they can do to prevent journalists publishing what they want, even in the tightly controlled mainstream media. Yeah. You know, a lot of people have seen UFOs, including myself. I've had 3 sightings, right. Which are pretty, I think, fairly inexplicable. More and more people, when I mention to people I know that I've had these sightings, people come to me and they tell me they've had sightings. Yeah. Very often they're people who will not mention it to anyone else until they know that I'm willing to talk about it.
Yeah. Now, we were at a conference, the Leeds Exopolitics conference a few months ago, and we met Steve Bassett and Richard Dolan. Now, Steve Bassett is very much of the mind of, well, let's have, he calls it a truth embargo, I think. Is that the term he uses?
He calls the cover-up that.
So he doesn't call it a cover-up, he calls it a truth embargo. And he says, let's have an amnesty for the truth embargo, and let's forgive the government. You know, there was very good reasons why they kept the information under wraps, because they weren't quite sure what they were dealing with. We need to make sure it's all safe before we tell the public, etc. And let's forgive the government. This is Steve Bassett's line. Let's work with the government, and then they will tell us what they know about UFOs. Let's not try and bang our fists on the table and be all angry at them. So is that not the best approach, Ben?
I don't think so. I've got a lot of respect for Stephen Bassett and Richard Dolan. I think they're really nice guys. I've read one of Richard's books. I think, though, they lack understanding, and they're rather naive people. I think they're not going to have what they want. I'm very interested in the exopolitics movement, and I very much enjoyed the exopolitics conference. David Griffin's a very good friend of mine. I know several other people who are involved in this, and I respect them deeply. But I don't believe we will ever have willing disclosure.
Right. Just for the audience's benefit who don't know what you mean by willing disclosure. Disclosure in the UFO fraternity means the admission by governments that UFOs are real and that they have proof of that, and revealing of what they have, because many people think that it's being suppressed. So willing disclosure would be a government coming out on a platform and making an announcement, this is it, folks. So you don't think we would ever have willing disclosure? No. Tell us why.
There are some lies that are too big ever to be revealed without basically destroying yourself. And this is, I mean, the UFO issue is bigger than 9/11. It's bigger than the fake moon landings. It's for the government to come up on a stage and say...
That's a controversial one, isn't it, Ben? The fake moon landings.
Yeah, I know we haven't discussed that yet, but it's an example. I mean, people say, well, you know, that's another example of the lies that are too big to ever to be told. 9/11, the fact the government's duplicity with 9/11 again, they're never going to tell us. We're going to have, you know, we have to wrench the information from them. UFOs are even bigger than that, I think.
So you think there needs to be some kind of a war in order to get, like, there's got to be some hurt for the information to come out. It's not going to come out nicely, in other words. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's not. And I think there will be a war, although I don't mean war in the literal sense of violence. Yeah. But I mean, it'll come out in the final showdown between the human race and the Illuminati. Right. I mean, for me, disclosure will be when we, free humanity, walks into an empty Area 51 and breaks into the basement. Right. and that will be disclosure.
Or wherever it is
Yeah.
they have them at this present time, because they, allegedly they've moved from there. They've got them in the Pacific Ocean now. All right. So, I mean, what do you think? You were telling me about how once this is revealed, a lot of people will wake up and go, "What? You're telling us all this UFO stuff was true?" That people will realise that the government have been able to keep this secret for a long, long time, or governments. It's organisations which reside above governments, effectively. You think that those people will be baying for their blood once they find that they have been lied to all this time?
I think societies that we know it will collapse, and the governments themselves will basically be shooting themselves in the head. It'll be an act of suicide for them to come up on stage and say,
Why is
my
that?
fellow Americans.
Why would it be? See, I mean, I tackled David Cameron on this, and I was criticised by some. Some people said, "Richard, why on earth are you tackling David Cameron? He does not have the authority to reveal the truth about UFOs." Well, of course, I know that, but I'm trying to bring publicity to the cause.
Will you seek to lift the veil of secrecy and tell the public the truth?
By doing that, it's not just because I think David Cameron's going to tell the truth about UFOs. It's a whole trying to raise the profile of the subject. But why couldn't we have that? What would happen if he did that? If he did, because it would permission would have to be given by certain organisations in America, what have you, for Cameron to do that. We know about UFOs. I mean, I'm not saying that he even has a need to know. He probably doesn't. Do you think we would ever see David Cameron making an announcement about the truth regarding UFOs?
No. Stephen Bassett, Richard Dolan, they have this idea in their head: if only people write to enough of their MPs, if only they lobby the White House for long enough, the government will eventually say, "Okay, we'll hold our hands up to it." And we've known about UFOs for 70 years. We decided to keep it from the people. But just think what the implications of that mean. It is, as Stanton Friedman says, the biggest story of human history, and they kept it from us. They kept it from us. Why? For our own good? No, because they'll have to admit they kept it from us for their benefits, for their interests, not ours. In fact, they kept it from us at the enormous detriment to the rest of us. I mean, it all comes into the free energy issue. Basically, they're going to have to say that they have developed the power and propulsion systems of these craft. They're going to have to say they did it many, many years ago. We're talking 50, 60 years. I mean, it's not just UFOs, it's also things like Nikola Tesla and his discoveries, human scientists' discoveries too. That all ties in with it as well. But I'll have to say, we knew about this, we developed this technology, we didn't tell you because we didn't want you to know because we...
So to admit that they've known about UFOs is the tip of a huge iceberg of other things that they have either recovered from UFOs or other things that they've suppressed, such as Tesla's information and free energy. That there are a number of people who are alleged to have had their free energy or over unity energy devices, secretized.
You can just imagine what's going to happen is people would be sitting there listening to this speech, and during the course, in a few minutes after they'd heard Obama or Cameron saying this, they'd be listing in their heads all of human history for the last 70 years and thinking of how different it would have been if the government admitted it, and it would be different beyond belief. We're saying that all the poverty, all the famine, all the millions of people who died of hunger in the third world, all the wars for oil, all the environmental destruction that's taken place because of pollution,
burning of fossil fuels,
deforestation, burning fossil fuels, it's all been for nothing. It was all preventable. The government would basically it'd be like confessing to the worst crime in human history, and we'd never trust them again, and they'd lose everything. The New World Order would be over.
Whoever they are, because this is the problem, we don't really know, who are, I've discussed it with Ian Crane, who are the manipulators, you've got your Zbigniew Brzezinski that Ian mentioned, and of course Kissinger, but he says that, well, no, they're not the real power.
No,
they're the kind of middlemen.
They work for this. I use the word Illuminati. Other people use different words. I don't know who they are. They haven't sent me a fax or anything like that. When it comes to evidence the Illuminati exists, like I said, they don't have. You can't phone them up. There's no website. There's no place where they are,
Yeah.
where you can actually go knock on their door. But then the same could be said for the mafia.
Yeah.
But no one doubts that the mafia exist. Odd thing is, the news is on, and over the last few days there's been lots of news stories about someone called Ed Miliband. Does anyone know who he is? The news stories don't seem very comprehensible to me. I see some very, very smartly dressed bloke in a suit with, you know, very well-groomed hair, and it's very close shave, and lots of people standing up and applauding him, basically kissing his arse in very, very grand auditoriums, flash bulbs flickering. It looks like the Oscars, really. So I've heard rumours that apparently he's got some position in the Illuminati Public Relations Department, UK branch. Well, that's really not really very interesting, is it? I don't see why that's in the headlines. You'd think there'd be other things in the headlines, like millions of people dying every day in hunger and wars, you know, environmental destruction in the Gulf of Mexico. That's been knocked down a little bit, you know. Anyway, if anyone can enlighten me who this guy is, I don't know. I'm completely at a loss. So perhaps someone could leave comments or a video response and just tell me exactly what's so important about this tosser. Because really, I'm baffled by the attention he seems to be getting at the moment. I mean, the Illuminati UK branch is a very interesting thing in a way, because they do go so over the top when it comes to recruitment. I mean, the one we got now is called David Camerbund, David Cameridge. I can't remember. He's another guy in a suit with well-groomed hair, very close shave, and lots of people kiss his arse. There's also this talk, people are going on in the papers about the fact that this Ed Miliband apparently is the son of a very famous Marxist. Again, is that news? I mean, you can't really be a politician unless there's a Marxist somewhere in your family these days. So, again, you know, I mean, the last Illuminati British public relations officer, Tony Blair, I mean, he was the chairman of the Fabian Society, you know, which is a big Marxist infiltration organisation, you know. Of course, Marxism is one of the tools used to create the New World Order. Hospital porters' pride and dignity stopped the New World Order.
Yes.
I mean, the evidence of the Illuminati comes partly from multiple eyewitness testimony, and partly from the fact that you can actually see their footprints in the world. I mean, if you look at the documents that have been released, for instance, Silent Weapons for a Quiet War.
Yeah.
One guy told me, he said, you know, you think they don't exist? Well, hold up Silent Weapons for a Quiet War in one hand, hold up today's newspaper in the other.
Yeah.
They match exactly.
Right.
And they really do.
So just expand on that book then for us.
Silent Weapons for a Quiet War is one of a series of documents that have been released over time. Another is called Unveiling Them.
So was
Secret Covenant? Sorry.
Released under Freedom of Information then? Is this an authored book by a researcher, or is it a government thing?
It's something that was released anonymously. It was found in a photocopier.
Right.
And it was discovered by somebody who then published it in a book. Right. No one knows who the author is.
But it's done on behalf of a government then?
Yeah, it's basically it's a do-it-yourself guide to the New World Order. It reads as a sort of guidebook which the manipulators need to follow in order to control people using. There's several different chapters on the media.
So you can get a copy of that then from somewhere.
You can buy a copy anywhere.
Right.
It's online.
Right. So, and what does it say about the, you know, about the manipulation of how does that document set out that it works then?
Well, for example, the media, the chapter on the media is the most interesting. Mm-hmm. It said I don't know if this is an exact quote. It says keep all mainstream media at a 6th grade level. Discourage technical creativity, and give the masses junk food for thought. That was a quote. Junk food for thought is the phrase they use. Right.
It's an American document then.
No one knows where it originally came from. It's found in America. Yeah. Right. They also use the phrase mental and emotional rape. Right. Excesses of violence, mindless sex, keep the masses distracted by matters of no real importance, and discourage investigations into what really interests them.
Right.
Right. And that describes our media perfectly, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, so where do you see it going? Where are we headed, Ben, in your opinion, with all of this sort of doom and gloom? What do you think's in store? Are we going to have this showdown where we're going to learn about UFOs in our lifetime, or?
I think we have to. I mean, it's reaching the point where it can't go on any longer. We are reaching a point of sort of showdown. It's kind of like the end game between free humanity and the Illuminati. The Illuminati are going to push for their New World Order, which is already behind schedule. They're pushing harder and harder, and we are luckily, I think, waking up, and we're becoming more and more aware, and we're starting to change our lives, which makes us harder to control. For instance, if you look at the subtlety and the ingeniousness of modern propaganda compared to, for instance, the posters for the First World War, where Lord Kitchener points at the camera and goes, "Your country needs you."
Yeah.
You know those posters?
Yeah.
It was all very simplistic, very childish. No one will fall for that now.
No.
So in a sense, the manipulators have to jump through more hoops than they used to, because people are getting harder and harder to control.
Yeah. All right, then, Ben. Well, thanks very much indeed for coming on the Starship.
You're welcome, Richard. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. And just remind us what the URL is for your blog.
All right. It's www.hapanwo, HBANWO.blogspot.com.
And there's a vast amount of reviews and video. You do a lot of filmmaking as well, and that's all on there for people to watch.
There are 4 blogs, including the TV channel, which is for YouTube. There's a forum. As I say, there's a fiction blog as well. There's plenty for you to see.
All right, and thanks then, Ben.
Thank you.
It just remains for me to say, keep your eyes on the skies, keep your feet on the ground, and tell all your friends about this show.